Dragon Age, The World of Thedas Volume 1, Chapter 2, Races, Elves or Elven. Summary of Audiobook Part 5. The Elves are a common race in Thedas, distinguished physically by their large eyes, willowy frames, and pointy ears. Their long history is coloured by ages of human oppression. The once powerful elves are now second-class citizens. Elven history. Today's elves are mere shadows of their ancestors. The proper name for elves is Elven, meaning the people. They once ruled a vast kingdom called Elfenen, translated as the place of the people. The lost city of Arlathan was its capital. It is said that the elves were once immortal beings who lived by their own rules and beliefs. When humans arrived, the elves lost their immortality and blamed the humans for this quickening. The elves were eventually conquered by the Tevinter Imperium. Most were enslaved, and generations under the Imperium Thummelbert killed elven culture, language, and history. When Andraste and her cult of the Maker rose to prominence, they brought a successful war against the Imperium, forcing the Empire to pull back its borders. Led by the controversial elven disciple Shartan, enslaved elves of Tevinter rose up to aid Andraste's cause. For their service, the elves were freed and given the Dales, a land in southern Orlais, and a new capital called Hallamshirel. The exodus to their new homeland was called the Long Walk. Long Walk to Hallamshirel. Only 65 of our group made it to Hallamshirel. Some gave up. Some sickened, especially the little ones. Bandits stalked us. My mother forgive me, I had to steal food. A child fought me for extra scraps of bread. A few days later, I carried her for miles after her legs gave out. She died shivering in my arms. I used to have a master, a mage. He fed me well, never beat me, even taught me how to read so I could do his accounts. But if he had a theory or a spell he wanted to test out, he'd get out his daggers, have the other servants tie me to a post, and carve furrows into my skin. I was so afraid. Every time, I was sure I would die. But at worst tide collapse, get bandaged up, and lay in bed too weak to move for days. The other slaves visited me in secret to survey the damage. I'd healed just enough before he needed blood again. That is why I travelled from Voldorma to the Dales with nothing but rags on my back. That is why there were 105 of us when we set out, all elven. That is why I fell to my knees and wept when we crossed through the gates of my new home, a village for my people. Anonymous account of the Long Walk, as told to Brother Pecker of Fairolden, circa 140 ancient. In the Dales, the elves attempted to rebuild their culture and once again worship their pantheon of lost gods. After generations under Tevinter, much of the old ways were gone, even some of their gods' names. The elves practiced what they could remember and adopted new beliefs to fill in the gaps. Relations with humans remained hostile, and the elven rejection of the Maker became cause for chantry ire. The elves founded a legion, known as the Emerald Knights, to protect their land from human intrusion. Tensions mounted, and when a small elven raiding party attacked the human village of Red Crossing, the chantry called an exalted march to crush the elven people and conquer the Dales in a series of brutal battles. The surviving elves, kicked from the Dales, split apart. Some became the wanderers known as the Dalish, travelling in groups and stubbornly clinging to barely remembered traditions. Other elves, bitterly resigned to their fate, now live among humankind as city elves, second-class citizens, servants, and labourers segregated to ghettos known as alienages. Alienages. An alienage is a section of a predominantly human community reserved for the elven population. In many cities, the alienages walled off from the other quarters. This is to allow the city authorities to lock down the alienage should a reason arise. Many alienages are plagued by poverty and crime. It is also common for infrastructure to fall into disrepair, as humans tend to let alienage residents fend for themselves, often without access to city services. While this segregation has allowed the elves a fair bit of social autonomy among their own people, it has also encouraged their isolation and substandard status. The Dalish are a nomadic breed of elves who openly refuse to live under human rule. They see themselves as the keepers of ancient elven lore and dedicate themselves to gathering and preserving the remnants of their lost culture. Before the exalted march of the Dales, many Dalish were elven nobility. Though their status has long been stripped away, they maintain the same pride and sense of duty held by their ancestors. The Dalish live and travel in clans. Often unwelcome in human cities, they tend to stick to forests and other wider places, never staying anywhere for too long. Their small bands, often made up of only blood relatives, are each led by a wise, senior member known as a keeper. The Dalish travel in ornately carved wagons, known as Ravel, Brother Genetivi wrote, drawn by large white stags called Hala. The land ships, he observed, are adorned with broad hoods and bright silken cloths that flap in the wind, often displaying the noble banners that once flew over the family's house. The Hala are a domesticated animal unique to the Dalish, originating in Arlathan and bred to large numbers once more in the Dales. The stags served as mounts for the Emerald Knights when the Dales were still home to the Elves. All adult Dalish have tattoos on their faces. The intricate inkwork is called Valislim, or blood writing. The tradition serves not only to identify the Dalish, but to illustrate, in a permanent fashion, their commitment to the old ways. Most Dalish groups tend to keep to themselves. However, once every 10 years, clans will congregate in a single, remote location to take part in Arlathfin, an event meaning the love of the people. Lore keepers exchange stories and knowledge at this massive gathering. While the old ways of the Elves are celebrated, sad lessons of the destruction of both Arlathan and the Dales are also recounted and discussed. It is an important time for the clans, a show of unity for an otherwise isolated people. Ways of the Hunter. Though much of the teachings of elven religion were lost to generations of oppression and slavery, traditions do persist. The ways of the Hunter, said to be passed down by Andrul, goddess of the hunt, instruct the elves on the proper means to respect and use nature's gifts. Embracing the ancestors' crafting skills, Dalish shape wood, bone, and leather into effective hunting weapons. Veer Asin, the way of the arrow. Be swift and silent, Andrul taught. Strike true. Do not waver, and let not your prey suffer. Veer Borasan, the way of the bow. As the sapling bends, so must you. In yielding, find resilience. In pliancy, find strength. Veer Adalan, the way of the wood. Receive the gifts of the hunt with mindfulness. Respect the sacrifice of my children. Know that your passing shall nourish them in turn. Elven phrases. What survives of the Elven language is largely kept alive by the Dalish. City Elves may live and die speaking only the common tongue. Elven, Abelas, translation, sorrow, to be sorry. Aravel, an ornate, sailed wagon used by the Dalish, called a land ship by humans. Also, a physical and spiritual path, a journey with purpose. Benalan, the place of nothing, the Elven name for the blight, or, rather, where the blight comes from. Belinaris, eternity. Din, the dead. Durganlin, children of the stone, the Elven name for the dwarves. Enisel, joy and triumph over loss, a variation of joyful relief. Herol, to trick or deceive. Here Ellen means trickster. Lath, love of being, also to be in love. Nadas, inevitability, something that must be. Rivas, freedom. Soulless, pride, to stand tall. Sulanin, rejoice, joy. Sulidin, the concept of finding strength in enduring loss or pain. Athenira, immortal. Sulidin, endure. Sulidin is an elven song about enduring and emerging from sorrow, tied to the loss of their ancient lands, but commonly adapted to express personal struggles as well. For the purposes of this audiobook, the Elven song will be read in the sequence of original text, a rough common translation, and finally the song in its Elven entirety. Melavri in an ensel. Time was once a blessing, Ears travel to Elveril, but long journeys are made longer. Una em abilas, when alone within. In Elgar Savir Mana, take spirit from the long ago. Into Seth Enrandom Emana, that do not dwell in lands no longer yours. Lath Sulevin, be certain in need. Lath Aravalina, and the path will emerge. Arl Eventavir Mavir, to a home tomorrow. Melana Nehin, and time will again. Enisal Irsale Thalin, be the joy it once was. This is Sulidin. Endure. In itself in entirety. Melav the Inan Ensel. Irsaravel to Elverolun em Abilas. In Elgar Savir Mana, in Tuseth Enrandom Emana. Lath Sulevin, Lath Aravalina. Arl Eventavir Mavir, Melana Nehin, Enisal Irsale Thalin. End of ZuleFandom Audiobook Part 5 of Dragon Age. The World of Thedas Volume 1. Part 6 of this series is the third and longest installment of Chapter 2, Races, and details the might of the dwarves. Part 7 will review what is known of the horned giants, known as Guinari.